We've pushed this rig through 4 major upgrades, but there's one final piece, the stretch. That could change everything. Welcome back to the upgrade series. So far, we have upgraded the wheels and tires, we've upgraded the steering, the knuckles, and even added overdrive to the front axle. Each step has brought us closer to the perfect crawler, but there is still one limit we can't ignore, and that's the wheelbase. If the front lifts on climbs, you're done. That's where today's upgrade comes in, stretching the front for maximum climbing performance. A longer wheelbase means more stability on steep ascents, less chance of flipping backwards, and a crawler that just feels more planted. The trade-off is turning radius and sometimes clearance, but we're going to test if this stretch gives us the final edge that we've been chasing. As always, we'll measure, test and compare CG, incline, static stability and trail driving. And at the end, I'll give you the full verdict on this entire series. Now, let's see if the stretch delivers where it matters the most, on the steepest climbs and the trickiest lines. I have bought 2 sets of links. I have bought Injora's stainless steel links, one for the deadbolt and one for the C10. From the factory, you have a caster that is neutral. I will be doing so we have a negative caster. Traditionally, you have a positive caster. When you drive a car, you want a positive caster so the steering is stable and that the steering centers itself. But on this kind of rig, you are not driving fast and you're not driving on a highway. So I will be choosing links so we stretch the front, but also so we have a negative caster. And my thinking is that when you are ascending a steep climb, if you have a positive caster, your wheels will be losing the traction or the footprint. Since the wheel is turning, you only will be getting traction from this part of the tire. But when we have a negative caster, you will be more or less turning like this. So instead of just having one corner of the tire touching the rock, you will have more contact patch, if that makes any sense. And the links I've chosen is the high clearance links. And I choose this kind of style because you can unwind the ball ends, and if we want to fine tune anything, the lengths and the angles of the links, we can do that. Because the ball ends we can twist, so we have a inwards facing link, or we can have a straight one, depending on what we want. So I will put aside everything that we're not using, and then I will lay everything out so you can see what lengths and how we're gonna set up the car, and then we will install it and see how the outcome becomes. So see you in a second. The rear will be 61.5 and 69 millimeters. And while we're at it, disassembling the whole car, I will be installing a adjustable rear truss from Injora as well. Because with that adjustable truss you can fine-tune the rear geometry, because there is some science about this also that I will be learning in the future. Because you don't want the car to squat when you're ascending. You want the car to spread apart and help the CG over the obstacle. And with this adjustable truss, you can fine-tune how the per links is mounted. So while we're at it, I will be installing this one so we can fine-tune the geometry later to see if the changes make any difference and if we can make the geometry be a lot better. So with that, I will be starting to disassemble and then assemble everything, and I will be coming back after the montage. I will be using 50mm lower links. I will be using 41mm upper links that I have installed a couple of spacers here, so we have them at around 43mm. So I will install them on the car now to see how much of a negative caster we get. Otherwise I will be installing a washer at the other side of the link also, to make it a little bit longer, so we perhaps reach about 45mm. Alright, so now I have installed 50mm links at the bottom and stretched 41mm at the top. And as you can see, now when the car is more or less level, the caster is pointed forward. Okay, so I will be showcasing how the stretch was done now. So a recap: at the back we have original deadbolt lengths. The only thing that since I installed the adjustable truss at the back, the battery mount was hitting the upper arms. So I moved out the post here to the outside of the car. So I screwed the old battery mount from inside out instead of outside in. So we get more clearance for the links inside of the frame. And also when the suspension was fully up, the shock mounts was hitting the screws here on the inside. So I moved the shock towers forward and also mounted them with just one screw instead of two, to get some relief so the suspension can move freely. And then we can also reposition the upper links. So now we have a good setup at the back. And at the front I have tried a few variances. First I had the C10 lower front and lower rear installed at the front here, but then the length was just too long. It looked kind of stupid, and then we didn't get any negative casters. Since the lower length was 8mm longer than the upper, then we had a neutral caster. Then I installed 50 lower and 51 upper, but then we had a really aggressive negative caster. So I finalized at 50mm lower and the 41mm upper, but with the two washers here. So we have approximately 43mm upper links. So I used C10 lower front and deadbolts lower front as upper links. So yeah, a lot of millimeters here. So I will be mounting the body and see how it looks, and if we can position the body somehow so we don't have the servo protruding in front of the body. We will try to make it look good. And also the shock mounts now, since we have stretched the front, we have a shock that leans backward. That's good. And then since we moved the shock mount forward, we also have a shock that is leaning forward. So when we are ascending, the shock is more or less straight up and down. So the shock can counteract the suspension movement upwards. So the weight transition is better. All right, we're done finally. After a few attempts to find the best setup of the lengths and the links, and the look of the car has changed a bit. It's lower, it's longer, and the suspension perhaps, I don't know, before we had some suspension travel even when the car was sitting here, but now since we have repositioned the shocks, the front has a little bit of travel but the back is bottomed out, and yeah, we have some articulation, And at the front now, when the suspension is fully compressed, it's just touching the body, but the suspension is bottomed out, so the servo can't move up more. So I think this will do for now. And when we have the full suspension travel left and rear, it's longer. It's moving away from the body. So I'm happy with this now. Now we will do the testing to see how the car is behaving with the new wheelbase, to see what kind of improvements we're getting. So we will do the CG now, and then the dynamic, and the last test will be the static test to see how much gain we get on the ascent. Alright, let's weigh the car and see how the CG has moved around now. So the new weight of the car is 383 grams, and before we had 353, so plus 30 grams total weight by changing the links. And the front weight is now 214 grams. I will write that up. And the calculator says 214 divided by 383, it's 55.9%, so minus 0.7%. And the rear says 167, so plus 16 grams at the back. And 167 divided by 383, that's 43.6%. That's plus 0.8% at the back. So we gained 2 more grams at the back than we did at the front. So let's test and see the dynamic testing now, because I hope that the drivability and the capability of the inclines has become better now, since we have a longer wheelbase. Even though the overall CG has gotten worse, we have a better wheelbase, so the CG has moved forward since the weight has moved up with the wheelbase. So I will rearrange the camera to the dynamic testing, and we'll start at 56.2 degrees as it was there we lost last time. Alright, so we're back at where we left off last episode, 56.2. So let's see how the car reacts now. And as you see, it's no problem. So even though the front left is lifting, the car handled it really good. So let's test 57 degrees now. If we would have a better low speed control, it would be easier to get up this now. But 57 is achievable. So let's see if we can get a couple of tenths more. 57.5. Yeah, that's also achievable. Alright, really good. Let's see if we can climb 58. That's a no-go, I think. Roll over immediately. Yeah, okay, so we can sheet it up. It's interesting to see how the rear is behaving now. Instead of it being pushed down, the rear is pushed up, and that is beneficial for the CG, since the rear is more upwards, the effective angle is lower. Okay, so the last static incline test now. Let's see if we have improved the car in any way. So last time we got 62 degrees. And now we get 63. Let's try a second time. But look at the rear now. When we reach a certain degree, the rear is pushing up. You see there? So now I would say that 63 degrees is max. So we have improved 1 degree of static incline. And let's see if we have improved the side hill performance in any way. Last time we got 50.2. 50.5 I would say. So 0.3 degrees gain. Alright, let's try the new car with the stretched front. See how it behaves. And once again it has rain, so the rocks are slippery. But as you can see, the car is very stable now. Let's see if we can push through here. Yeah, simple. I would say that the car is way more stable now. The stability and the resistance of the rollovers are prominent than before. Even though the CG and the dynamic incline tests weren't that much more good, I would say that the overall car now is miles away than before, because we have the wheelbase that is longer, the center of gravity is more planted, and then we have the high clearance links that also helps when we are traversing over the ledges here. Alright, the final test. We haven't been able to climb this ledge yet. And right away I can see the difference here. Yeah, like you see here now, we have managed to climb over the first ledge and come up to the second. And always before, when the back tires was hitting the first ledge, the car just toppled over. So the front stretch is really doing this car good now. And the rollover isn't really there. It's just a loss of traction in the wet moss here. Now you also can see, since we have installed the adjustable truss at the rear, and since the links are spread out, the top link is high, so when the car is on power, the rear has a lot of anti-squat. When we are increasing the amount of torque of the motor, the rear is lifting, and that is also helping the center of gravity. Since the truck isn't leaning back, it tries to anti-squat to get over. Then there is a limit when the anti-squat limits the car, because with a lot of anti-squat you lose traction. So you don't want too much anti-squat and you don't want too less of anti-squat. So it's here we come into the fine-tuning of the car. But I would say the front stretch is really good here, and the car isn't really trying to flip over. So that's really good to see. So this is a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up I would say, 3 if I would have them. And now we will try the same stone as we have tried all the videos before. Although it's wet now and currently raining, I want to see how the front behaves now at the point of the rock. Yeah, so you see here now, if we look at the shocks here now, the shocks aren't compressed, but when we are powering through now, they are uncompressing, so the rear of the car really tries to lift itself, which is beneficial for the CG of the car. I will compare this footage with the first footage we did after the wheels and tires to see how the front behaves now and how the front behaved at the beginning of the upgrades. The stretch upgrade does exactly what we hoped. It gives the rig more climbing capability, more stability, and it ties together all the other upgrades we've done in this series. It's the final step that makes the crawler feel complete. Over these 5 episodes, we have built a rig that's stronger, more capable and tuned for performance. And the best part, you can do the same, step by step. Even though we haven't reached all our goals, I would say this rig is a lot more capable. It's more fun to drive and a more complete rig, since we have upgraded the wheels and tires, we have upgraded the brass knuckles, we have upgraded the servo, the front axle with the overdrive, and now lastly we stretched the whole rig. So we have moved forward the CG and moved it lower, and we have improved the whole car. That's the end of the road to 60 series, but it's just the beginning for this channel. If you watched this far, you're exactly the kind of RC enthusiast I make videos for. So hit that subscribe button and join me on the journey to 1000 subscribers. Let's build this community together, you and me. This was the road to 60. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next trail.